All right, we're going to talk about lighting, okay?
Think about it.
So, here's the deal. You guys have probably experienced this, but cameras need more lighting than our eyes do, okay? So in the dark, we can see a lot better than our cameras do, okay? So, here's some different options for lighting. You've got natural light. This is awesome, but sometimes you can't control it, right?
You mean sometimes you can't.
They did natural light in Outer Banks.
They did?
You know what other
Can you get
movie?
inside, though?
What other movie used complete natural lighting?
Twilight.
No,
Star Wars.
no. It won awards for.
Oh, Lord of the Rings.
No,
La La Land.
Is it a new one?
completely didn't use any like
Is it a
fake
new one?
lighting. It was all like
How new is this show?
it's in the last 7 years. Starts with an R.
Office.
Office.
Not Office. So it's a film.
Oh, did you say it started with a
Leonardo DiCaprio was in it.
Wolf on the...
Titanic.
That's like 30 years ago
Oh,
or 20 years ago.
R. Leonardo DiCaprio.
Helps if you snap.
It does help me. No.
It starts with an R.
Yep.
What's the last one? The last letter.
T.
Right.
It's one word. It's one word.
What?
Ratatouille.
Oh my gosh. We won some awards. Come on, Leonardo
What's the
DiCaprio.
second
And there's the main
letter?
actor is Smokey the Bear.
Oh,
Not
Revenant.
Smokey. Yeah, Revenant, right?
Was
Is
that
what he
really
said?
all natural light?
All natural light. That's amazing that was shot completely without.
And the real bear, too.
So here's the deal, guys. Now, it's not controllable, but you can bounce it. Okay, here's what, if you have a white surface, like what we've done in the past, we've had, you know, my little graph, whiteboard little graph thing that rolls up. We've used that in film class to actually bounce light. So you can see this happen. I'll demonstrate here. So see how this light's coming right down here and see my face?
Yes.
Look at my face. Look at me.
Do you want someone to hold the thing?
Okay, so watch what happens to my face if you look closely. So see how it's bright?
You enjoying this?
Yeah, this is not enjoying it. Okay, so we use that a lot because shadows are like, unless they're purposed, shadows are like annoying, right? And direct sunlight is tough. It's almost too bright, but also it's not consistent. A cloud could come in the way and mess up the shot. Okay, and that doesn't really work. It's not very natural. So you can use a reflector to make it a little bit more manageable. So direct sunlight make it tough. Shadow versus squinty eyes. You know, all the squinty eyes you get from looking right into the sun. Don't do that. That's harmful. Use a reflector, homemade or purchased, to bounce the light. We're going to watch a little video on that. So direct sunlight is tough. Okay, so you don't always want to be facing the sun. You can like be facing, if the sun's over here and you've got a little bit of shadow here, you can always grab a light bounce here or something like just something that's reflective and be able to get rid of some of that shadow on your face. That's good, and it looks nice too. Okay, so direct sunlight's tough, so use a reflector to bounce the light. Okay. You can use a diffuser as well. A diffuser will eliminate a lot of that light. So instead of bouncing it, you're putting a diffuser in between you and the sun. Okay. So it softens the light. It's not as bright and it's not as squinty. But you can do that with clouds too, because then you won't see shadows when there's sun and no shadows when there's clouds. it'll all be consistent, so you can diffuse it as well. All right. A lot of times people use what's called an umbrella because it literally is an umbrella. It looks like an umbrella. You'll see that in photography a lot. If you put an umbrella in front of a light source or behind it it will bounce it, but in front of it will diffuse it. Okay. It works the same way with a lot of audio too. You know, in a recording studio, there's things on the wall. There's like acoustic panels, and what a lot of the times they'll do, they'll absorb the sound or they'll deflect it. They'll diffuse it. It'll send it in different directions, not right back at you. Because the last thing you want is to be able to hear the wall next to you. So when you talk like this around, you can tell when you're facing the wall because you can hear it. But if there was like a little thing on the wall here that basically it takes that sound wave and it just goes, washes it out instead of slapping it right back at you. Works the same way with light. So light waves and sound waves are very similar. Okay? Cloudy days are ideal, but inconsistent. You can't plan on cloudy days. So that's why we use a diffuser to make it look like a cloudy day, even when it's sunny, because that's the best lighting. All right. I'm having trouble writing. So you can use natural lights indoors. You can be by a window. This is kind of a cool shot. If you're standing by a window and the lights are off, you get this cool little fill on your face and then shadows in the background. You see that a lot in film and TV shows. And as you're watching Netflix or whatever this weekend, pay attention to the lighting. Because sometimes they have shadows, but it's purposeful, right? And it looks cool. It's very artistic. It's creative. But it communicates emotion too. It communicates like, maybe they're hiding something, or there's another side of them that we don't see, type of thing. So, or sometimes it just looks cool, and so you wanna capture that. All right. Let's see. Avoid filming subject with the sun behind, so you get lens flares. Now, sometimes lens flares are awesome, and if you do those on purpose, that's going to be great. What we'll do a lot of times is we'll have a camera, and then we'll put the lens on, but then we'll put some fishing line on the where you put the lens, attach it to the camera, put some fishing line to let a little bit of sunlight in, and then it creates these lens flares. And you can create those in After Effects and post-production pretty easily, but it's always nice when you get actual lens flares and stuff like that. Okay, but when the sun is behind you, then obviously it's the exposure is terrible, but it's really bad lighting, unless that's what you're going for. And, you know, you got to know the rules before you break them. When you see the difference between like the picture of her with all the shadows on her face, I mean, that's how we normally take pictures, and that's how we normally shoot stuff. We don't care about lighting, but it was made such a difference to diffuse that and make it a little bit more consistent all over her face. And so that's how it should be done, you know, not that we have to worry about lighting all the time, but if we want a nice shot, then you have to consider that. It's very important. All right, so extra lights. So this is where, especially if you're filming indoors, you need some extra lights. Household lamps are good for close-ups, but filling shadows outside. So you can actually use what's in your house. Fluorescents are very difficult, or not difficult, they just look ugly. Okay, like these lights are terrible, and depending on your frame rate, it makes lines. Have you ever seen that, like on a computer screen? Like when you're watching a computer screen, you see the lines going down the computer screen. That's not the computer screen. That's the film. What's happening with the film and the frame rate of the film, that you're seeing those lines go down. It's really weird. But fluorescent lights are very much like that too. We shot a whole scene. We spent like probably 4 to 6 hours shooting this scene in this location. We went to, what's that? Inn in Golden, not Golden Hotel, but Table something Inn. But we rented a room for the night and we shot this whole scene. And we're like, oh, they're fluorescent lights, but let's make it work. We went home and then there was just lines going down the whole time. So be careful about what kind of lights you use and make sure you preview your video while you're there and make sure it looks good on camera and off camera. So extra lights, you can use household lights like lamps, like LEDs are great, but it's a different color. So you have to figure out what color you want. Household lights and lamps are good for close-ups and for filling shadows. But if you want to light a scene, then household lamps don't really cut it. And we'll talk about filling shadows in a second here. Shadow fills. All right, halogen utility lights are great, like the ones at Home Depot. But they get really hot and they're usually heavy and they're kind of dangerous if you're working around any kind of flammable stuff. Halogen lights are, I think those are the ones that are dangerous, but utility lights, but they get hot. So, but they're cheaper too. They're not bad. I almost bought some, but I didn't. So make sure your camera does not auto adjust. This is a classic mistake. Most of our phone cameras will adjust the lighting. So you don't want that to happen. It looks bad, it looks cheap. Just so you can AF light. I think that will lock the lighting as well. But if you don't do that, then your lighting's gonna be messed up. And it's a pain in the butt to adjust after the fact. So make sure it doesn't auto adjust. Where was that? Make sure camera doesn't auto adjust. Okay. Lighting your film, overexposed, underexposed, 3-point lighting, bouncing light. It needs to look natural. Okay, so we're gonna watch this, guys. This video is really helpful. This is about 3-point lighting. So 3-point lighting is you've got your subject, and then you've got like a main light, which we call a key light. Okay, and then you've got like a fill light. So maybe not quite as powerful. And then you could possibly have a backlight. All right, so let's have a look at what that looks like. This is interesting.